Okay, welcome to Forensic Happy Hour. And so, crazy thing about this, being that we are extremely technical people, we're not so technical because, I ran into some issues and it has to do with Skype. So, we're going to see how this is a new setup, how we're doing it. One person on Skype, one person just going live with the webcam. So, it should be fun. Keith Lockhart, it's been a while. He actually mentioned, he said, hey, you know what? It's like May the last time I called you on Skype. So yeah, so it has been a minute, as the kids say, right? So without further ado, we'll go here to Keith Lockhart. Thank you so much. I'm tipping my glass to you and saying I really appreciate it.
Cheers, and
Yeah,
I'll just assume that you're cheering
I
back
am.
here.
I'm cheering it big time to you. And
Fantastic.
another fun thing you'll have to watch. I'm into the Viking shows right now, and so I have this huge wooden mug that I show
Oh,
the audience.
I can't see it. Huh. All right.
Full of not quite full of beer, but anyway. Again, I appreciate the time. Obviously, we had some issues, but that's okay. I think we're live, and people might be watching it and say, "Hey, we can't hear you." But I mean, it's showing my audio is being captured, so that's a plus. So let's kind of dive into it. Obviously, I took enough of your time, but in obviously. You understand the show, how it works, guys, that I just make up questions on the go. So it's a good time. But I've known Keith for a long time that I could probably come up with some questions without him introing himself, because we'll get into that. So just, I mean, how long have you been in the game, so to speak, into the forensic realm and running training?
Running training, almost 20 years. That's not even funny.
Yeah.
Um, 2003 would have been the start of running training. Training for over 20 years now.
Yeah. And
That's mortality in the face
that
right
was like
there.
in W3C. You did kind of, I guess, what would it be? You cut your teeth there?
99.
99. Wow.
Wow.
That's like a song too. 99 little
Yes,
balloons or something,
yes.
right? Um,
You know, wow.
so in going back to that, obviously there has to be some foundational support on or how you go and formulate that. Has it changed that how you conduct the training? And I'm not talking about virtual or anything else because we all know that has changed. But I mean attacking and solving the problem of how do I get these people to understand the methodologies. Have things changed?
So it's funny you should ask that. And I've been super lucky that each of the jobs in this career have kind of prepared me or really carried over into the next one. So that one was one where back in those days, it was tax money funding training for law enforcement. And not that that's a criteria for the conversation, but generally it was you go there, learn this. More than 50% of the time against their will. So not only did you have incredibly technical information that you were trying to convey to people that might not be as interested in it as you were, they were anti. I you're crazy if you think I'm going to learn this information. So we had to come up with a lot of fun, interesting ways to deliver not necessarily wanted technical information. And when you do that over the course of 5 days, you make friends for sure, and you leave people with a new set of skills and ways to think about things. Now, how has that changed? Over time, that proving ground was one, like I said, where a lot of people were forced going to a vendor corporate world where people actually, the majority of the time you're in front of them, they've paid to do that, so they want to go there, they want to do it. That quotient has changed, but the whole technical information and putting it in a fashion that people can learn and understand, even when they want to, still stay as a problem, still stayed the same. So you just learn to address that by trial and error, by new topic matter, by relevant to what's going on in the world. And I say that in jest because it's like, hey, we need some new demo data. I could say, Lee, make us a new demo file. And if you did it today, it would probably include the song "We Don't Talk About Bruno" from Encanto anymore because it's so popular in our culture right now. Those things, I mean, those are constant variables that we just live and adapt with. But the overall, how do we put that information in a way people will digest it, is the same. And we're always trying to figure out the best ways to do that.
Yeah.
20 years later, that problem is, or that issue, it's not really a problem. It's just the thing we tackle based on the topic and the people learning.
Yeah, obviously the methodologies, I would say, I've been out of kind of the training for a while, but I would say that the methodologies and how you go in and communicate to people could possibly change, right? So what are some of the ways that you have seen, in those 20 years that, the delivery, how does the delivery change? Obviously the content can change, just based upon, data, like you said, data sets or devices, but there has to be because people accept or kind of consume information differently. So how have you seen that change?
Well, I mean, there's some super obvious conversation these days about our distance world, but I'll tell you that I got super lucky. Matter of fact, I can remember you and I having that 7 a.m. call, like, wow, we need to get some remote training going, like right now, which was on our roadmap of things to do, but it was probably the 2007-8 time frame in another training lifetime where we had to adapt to a really poor economy, where the first things to go are training money and travel money generally in our industry. And had we not done a remote environment or learned to accommodate those kind of pain points, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Hmm.
So luckily, and the answer to this question is how does a delivery change? The prominent one, the one that's changed the most, is just like working from home, teaching and learning from home, is making it so people don't have to go anywhere because they literally couldn't for a year. And then when that kind of relaxed, it was very cautious and trepidation of, oh, maybe I don't want to go to a bunch of people in the same place type thing. So our delivery adaptation, going remote and having that capability has been super key and probably the biggest thing that's changed for everybody in this industry. Not even this industry, everybody everywhere in almost every industry. We just happen to adapt it our way. Tell you what, though, that's no new news and that's no real fun idea. But our particular thing, I've shipped out 8 boxes around the world this week to do some extraction training because not only are we bringing people to us and our hardware here, but we've flipped the bit upside down. And when we not using our hardware because you got to play with it, I actually ship it out to you. So it's really really funny you bring that up. And I use the same old answer of, hey, we're doing remote delivery, we're also doing remote capture. Hey, here's a box of phones, dump them on your desk and do these things with us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. The delivery is a twofold change in a remote environment like that.
Yeah, and so obviously with the delivery too, I mean, there are people, and people want to consistent, or they have to be consistently trained, right? Things change, products change, but even if you have, say, the same course, I mean, how are you going and you're keeping, one, the students happy, right? Students happy with something that they're able to review quickly. So what type of technology are you using for them to reference or to, go back and look at their training before? Because, remember, we always created those, 900-page manuals or Bibles that you would have and people would scribble in, and you have those, and then you go in your office and they're all just sitting there, collecting
Big
dust.
stacks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So what are some ways that you have seen and kind of spearheaded to make sure that, people are getting, one, the content that they need in the medium that they, I guess that word desire.
Yeah, though the best is the reference component to that because having the class is fantastic and attending it and jamming all the information down people's throats is great. But 6 months later, when you come across something you learned on day two between 1 and 3 p.m. right after lunch, you're like, I remember that, but I don't remember that. So we send everybody home with electronic training materials, electronic books these days. No more printing, no more stacks all over the place because while they're fun to look at in the bookshelf, other things could go there. And we use LMS content. So if you have the ability to review later down the road or come back and watch the video or maybe a knowledge nugget where you don't have to sit through a 3 day class again, that's incredibly valuable for people's time, for people's effort. They think, oh, and that's the key. I will always take the complaint. That was too much information. I was drinking from a fire hose. My response is drink it. Because if I can implant that seed in your head and later you'll remember, I know I've seen this. Let me go get that book out. Oh, I know I remember this conversation. Let me go watch that video. Then we've accomplished everything. We got it to you. You know it's out there somewhere in the back of your head, and you know where to go get the information to get the job done. Got to get done. So it's a great conversation point, all about training. Not that I want to make it all about training, but then what we're doing today and how we keep people in the best shape for success, because I don't want you to waste your time, we set you up really well like that, or at least my world does, our world does, as far as making sure people have the immediate experience and then the reference down the road
Well, with
helps.
something so technical, say digital forensics, I mean, you kind of have to get in the weeds, right? And so how do you cater to students that are, kind of look at you and that look, they're just like, and you're not quite sure, right? And
Since we can't see
yeah,
you,
and, you,
I'll
and
make
you're
it
like,
look for.
oh shit, this is like day one. And so, I mean, how do you go in and, I mean, there's some people, that aren't able to do that as an instructor. I know that for a fact, right? But how do you go in and cater as, the practitioner that you've been around for so long? I mean, I'm not saying that you're old, but you are, right? So
Okay,
well,
just for that.
yeah, because I'm the same age. But how do you seriously? I mean, how do you go in and really allow people to flourish? That might be at that this is the first thing I've ever. What is a cell phone, or what's a computer? And to those guys that have been doing it for a while, because obviously they're going to come in and you're going to have that intermingling within a class. So how do you attack that?
When Patches O'Houlihan has to teach, my day we walked across broken glass to learn about this. Um, Look, we don't leave anybody behind, and all that starts on day one. Where I say, "Hey, Lee, I'm Keith. How's it going? Tell me, give me your 5 minute description of what you're doing in the world." We find out about our student, right? There's a common denominator of knowledge we want to stick to. Like when we do a certification and we base it on the objective learning points of the courses, that's kind of something we got to stick with. But we also say in the industry on the whole, any class, almost anywhere, there's about 50 questions you have to learn the answers to. And once you have those under your belt, you can pretty much play all over the field, left, right, leave the stadium and come back, as long as you're still getting those objectives across. And when you've done that, then you can almost pair an answer to a look on somebody's face, because most of the course is designed to elicit those questions, because there's things we want people to know. Can't just give it all to them on a piece of paper. There's no learning that takes place at that point. So we recognize what's going to be difficult. We analogize it and exemplify it. As I tell our crews, when we go out and teach, you better have a good example for everything. What you're wasting your time with me today because of why. So I'm going to make sure you understand it all by analogizing and exemplifying and making sure you understand why we're teaching it to you. If it's on the page in the book, it's because it's something we want you to see or have that seed. And that starts out in the morning, on the first day of class, whether it's remote. I mean, here's the difference. All of our training environments have real instructors, whether you're far away or right there together in the same room. And we have that same approach. Let's find out about you. Let's talk. And people will think, oh, I could never do that remote. Au contraire. While we don't enforce cameras, a lot of people turn their cameras on, and they all start talking, they all start writing notes back and forth to the instructors and students, and is learning about your students so you can address that. I've never done this. And it's also difficult, Lee, because people will say, well, you should prerequisite that. And while there's probably some distinct logic to prerequisites, I hate doing that because people that could have made it won't do it that way, or somebody who doesn't have all the time to do this part that really needs that part. I usually put that onus on us to make sure we get that information across to them no matter what.
Yeah, but I would say,
And
I mean,
pretty successful.
to that point, right? To that point is having people that have been doing it for a while can kind of be like the mentor, the guide. Would you think that? I mean, to someone that's there. So that's kind of that. Hey, you know what? We have these people that have been doing this for a while. We're not going to use them as our crutch, right? We're still going to be instructing, but you can take it as in a coach. Networking after that, they're able to go in and really be able to communicate with that newbie. So how important is that as a community? I mean, what do you do that as part of the courses where, obviously you have your introductions and people, it's hard to do it obviously remote, but how important is that to further on with not just the training, but the knowledge in kind of a community tribal type of way, where you're able to go in and have those people when they walk away to be able to reach out. Like at IASIS, right? We'd have the whole roster that you'd be able to go in and communicate. You have these, you can call these people up. Are there things that you're doing now?
Well, look, we try to participate in listservs. We give out our phone numbers. I mean, probably to our detriment or our demise. A lot of people call us after the fact. Hey, this. Hey, that. Or hey, check out this case we're working. Which is, I mean, that's a really cool thing because there's a lot of reciprocity. we keep it just as real by, well, some of those phone calls and some of the things we help with are great. But I think when you make it a community conversation or an industry conversation versus a vendor or a technology or a class, I think that's the real value. Like people all around the world, we talk about in our extraction class the challenges of extraction. When this person calls it an extraction, that person calls it a dump, that person calls it a rip, that person calls it a whatever. Just being on this, learning those things and being on the same page. So if you're in Idaho and I'm in Utah and I can call you and say, hey man, I just ripped the phone. You're like, what? Gosh, you must be able to rip a phone book. You're pretty strong. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, the community aspect of that from instructor, student, I mean, everybody needs to walk in everybody's shoes. And I think that's the ultimate goal. If you're just getting your first pair of shoes, put them on. I'm going to show you how to walk and run and slide and do everything else in them. And we all know that same thing. That's probably one of the biggest things about the industry is when you can have, gosh, IT folks and prosecutor, attorneys and enforcement people and all the everybody on the same page with what they're trying to learn. That's a big, huge part of it. And that's what I think of when you say stuff like what you're talking about right there. And again, that starts on day one. Hey, who are you? What do you know? Because in my head, I think I already know what I want you to know when we part ways, and
Right.
we'll keep doing that afterward. But I got to get to a certain level here. Tell
Right.
me where you are right this minute, so I
So
know how to adjust.
yeah, so going back to, I mean, in training an individual, right? Because you're going to take in, because with you have a law enforcement background, right? So with the law enforcement background, or having an instructor who has a law enforcement background, um, going into and speaking to, say, on the corporate side of that, or people that might not have that background, and really the objective of their examination is completely different, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, the objective is always to find the stuff, right? Or to, determine and to set up what the information that you're looking for, and do this in this, utilizing this process. But how do you go in and prepare your instructors for that situation? Because I can tell you right now, you can fail as an instructor, to go in and speak at a level of, say, as a law enforcement officer into the corporate side of it, right? Or being a corporate guy and then going in and speaking to law enforcement. I mean, that's like going into the lion's den, if you're going to have that, right?
Not so bad. It's speaking the language, right? It's completely, and there's a whole bucket of language that this term means that term. And I wouldn't argue it, but I would say, the who, what, when, and where, and why are still all the common things people want to find. Their production and delivery of the material varies greatly between corporate, legal, and law enforcement. Who's your ultimate customer? A judge, an IT group, a room of attorneys that are doing review, another agency where you have to give, a load file versus a PDF of straight documents or facts, this type of report versus that type of delivery or production. Those are the big differences. And yeah, a case or a matter or a custodian, just learning, but that's analogizing and exemplifying, right? Hey, this is the same analogy. This is a piece of data, whether that person owns it or it's evidence A found in location B, that's still the same data. How we get you to find what you want and how you end up producing it for your ultimate customer. We're super cognizant of that because that's the name of the game. I mean, sometimes we talk about like my ultimate customer. My first ultimate customer is my instructor cadre to make sure they have all the tools they need to do that job. Their ultimate customer is the student and making sure they have all the tools to get it to somebody they got to get it to. And we have to educate them. Who's your ultimate customer? It's like when we release software, Lee, we don't want to change it so dramatically that somebody has to learn it all over again. We have to be really cognizant of our ultimate customer and how we're going to deliver that data to them. So I think that's the analogy that works across. Well, it's worked for me, and as we would say on the stand, in my experience, in those 20 years, that's been probably the biggest single best way to ride the challenge of all of that. Different people, different terminology, same data in the end, different production, different delivery, same things you're looking for. But let's show you how to find your way in the tool and deliver it your way from the tool. That
So
makes sense?
yeah, oh yeah. So going on to kind of the instructor side of that, I mean, because there's a lot of people, that are going to maybe look through this, or listen to it, that wants to go in and teach, right? So what are some things that they can do to prepare themselves? Obviously, they're not going to, hey, I'm going to go to Police Academy, I'm going to go to Post, and I'm going to go and do. So what are some things that you might think if someone wants to get into to be an instructor? What are those kind of those qualities that you look for when you're selecting those people?
So, I mean, there's always things like be people, and things like that. But you have to learn to bring me the solution, not the problem. And I've literally handpicked people out of class and I say, listen, I'm going to answer that, but you have to understand it's going to change your career because I'm going to chase you down to make you teach after this. Because people will realize in the environment of learning, okay, so, don't just, I don't know, don't just complain, let's find the solution because that's our job as the instructors to provide the solutions. So when you, like, one of the first things we do if people come, join the instructor team, hey, you're going back to class, but you're going through it with the instructor mindset this time, not the practitioner mindset, because you have to think about it all different. I know you know that part. Now you got to know this part. So you need to bring the solutions, not the problems.
Hmm.
And you start thinking that way, and everything you do in the tool becomes a, huh, okay. And I need to deliver, I need to say it like that. I need to show it like that. I need to make people use it like that because that helps them figure out the solution versus just recognizing the problem.
Hmm.
It's almost a feed yourself, mentalities teach you to feed yourself or
Right.
not just lead you to water, but here's how you drink it,
Right.
right? Let's find the water.
Right.
There's all those things that you just think about it differently. And as an instructor, that's where your head has to be, not just using it as a practitioner
Hmm.
mindset.
So would you say a successful instructor is always learning, right? That they're trying to find or they're trying to, you know, build a better mousetrap, so to speak, right? That they're always trying to look into that, or is it just like, hey, yeah, here's the stuff, I'm gonna go and it's kind of obviously a rhetorical question, but what are your feelings on continuing with obviously educating them, and if it is, how are you, or how would you suggest that uh, people go about that, either to as a supervisor or as that person that's a trainer to hone their craft, right? Because honestly, you have to be very versed in obviously whatever you're instructing, to now go and impart that knowledge in a way that a different individual can consume that. So how do you and how do your people are they staying ahead?
No, there's probably 100 videos floating around the internet these days after my career, and I end a lot of them, most of them with, "Hey, see you next time. Keep on learning." And I sounds rhetorical, but it's exactly the point you're making. You can't stagnate. Oh my gosh, Lee, one of the reasons I do this job is the learning curve is straight up most of the time. And I said that about just taking a teaching. So after leaving a cop job, what would get me off a cop job? Going to a teach cop job, so to speak. Thought that'd be fun. But the learning curve was straight up. And that was back in the day when there was no automated technology and you could disk edit your way through all the sectors on a floppy disk and make a case out of it. Well, let's pretend that the computer forensic world kind of plateaued with file systems and operating systems. And I know they come wrong every so often. But then, oh, wow, hard drive sizes get so big. Here's all these new tools we have to learn. And they continually come out. Oh, wow, here's an e-discovery world where money and code says that company has to be able to preserve digital data or that's bad. We've got to learn all that stuff. Oh, wow, incident response and hacking becomes amazingly popular and troublesome for the world, and we have to learn how to respond to that. Oh, wow, everybody's got a device in their pocket. I mean, that's the curve here,
Yeah.
straight up in the air in a job like this. And it's bad enough as a practitioner. It's twice as bad or more from the instructor standpoint because, you're trying to, and bad is the wrong word. It's that much more straight up in the air and challenging because you're trying to learn the tool that much more or whatever technology you're trying to instruct. So everybody has the solution side of the conversation, not just the problem one. So how do we do it? Or what? I don't. It's using all the delivery methods. It's using all of the opportunities to learn and test the tool. I mean, I say we, and that's just the right in front of me way to do it. But when we learn something new in our group, we're like a little beehive. We grab everybody and go check it out. And our company, the veracity with which our tool releases as compared to other companies I've worked at before, it's crazy. If Detective comes out 14 times a year, that's a lot of learning, once or twice some months that we have to turn around and deliver that and incorporate it in all the material. the tool has to do that. If it wasn't, we'd be doing a disservice because mobile stuff changes more than anything. So, you double and triple down on that whole concept. But we have to take those opportunities, those times, and keep everybody on the same page, especially as an instructor group. So I all know. I just said the other day, I had the whole group on a call, and I was really excited because we're going back to conferences in person now, and we have, we just brought on a couple new folks at the start of the year here, and I was really excited that there would be a group of us that could go anywhere on the planet, have the same conversation with people, and we're talking about the same uniform things that we learned together. So that's a long answer to probably a shorter question, but there's a lot involved in it. And there's a lot of dedication that you got to put into it so you have that type of knowledge to back up what you're doing, you know?
So how competitive is the training world, right? Obviously, there are tools, but there are things that say open source tools, and there's still training for it that you might have. But I mean, how is it? Do you think that it's competitive? And if you do think it's competitive, how do you see you, or I guess your team, um, combating that?
Competitive is a tough word. I don't know that I would say it's necessary. And it's not necessary because I'm trying to waste your time or make you spend your money. But if you just sit down and count up I think there's 1,218 buttons in Detective. If you don't know how to use but 30 of them, you're doing yourself a horrible disservice. We talk all the time about, when we work with sales teams or people like that say, look, we get folks that are going to call in and go, I need another software. I've been using it for 20 years. I just need another one. Okay, fair enough. But if there's a net new customer to any technology out there and we're not providing, can't force it on them, but our job is to provide it and have it available. We don't have the availability for them to learn it like they need to learn it to use it for that ROI, bang for the buck, best of their ability way. That's the competitive side. Or that's the competition is on us just to stay up with the tools to make sure the customers have that avenue to learn.
Yeah, and I
And
think
you
it is a
almost
lot different.
have to do it.
Yeah, I think
You
it's a
know?
lot different for sure. Obviously in a product side of it versus a training side of it, because typically they're going to have you're not selling that this particular item to them, but you're training them onto that.
Mm-hmm.
From obviously with the courses that you might have, so they most likely already have it. But obviously it's how convincing and helping to understand or to explain to someone why they might need that, um, is it could be difficult, right? And why they need, hey, no, I'll figure it out. Don't give me the instruction manual. I'll eventually figure it out, and then you like put it together 6 or 7 different times, right?
And you've heard us say that our most common response, we're just talking to people, not even in the classes. I had no idea my own tool could do that.
Right.
And that's where we flourish. Hey, did you know this? Did you know that? I mean, here, let's do a Kahoot and just talk about different topics about the technology. You have no idea that we do that. And the people that, gosh, they'll win it at a conference or they'll get some people have great budgets. Let's buy all these tools and they sit on the shelf. Oh, that drives me crazy when they have the capabilities to do things right there at their fingertips. They just don't know how. They've never been shown how.
Right.
That's where, the competition from a learning environment is that if you've got to put up any group of instructional folks out there with their technology, the competition is, can you make everybody know how to do the things they need to do with it?
Hmm.
Not just showing the buttons rhetorically, but gosh, if you push these three together, ta-da, your week just got that much better because you were able to produce this or
Hmm.
find that or decode or parse or put whatever analogy you want there. That's where we have to stay competitive with ourselves, is to make sure when new stuff comes out, we have that available constantly,
Right.
constantly.
Right. So I've had this conversation several times with some of the other guests, but and you mentioned it a little bit ago, and I wanted to touch on it. Is really attacking that problem of say digital evidence right now, considering terabytes of information. I mean, what do you see as that word triage, with data? I mean, whether it be from a computer, whether it be from a mobile device, whether it be from a 5 terabyte external drive. I mean, do you see that to be more of, I mean, what people are doing as part of examinations now?
No, listen, it doesn't matter. Well, and this is Keith's opinion, but I've been all
That's what
over
I'm
the
asking
planet.
for.
Yeah, right. Uh, I'll remember that. Um, all over the world, this problem is the same. Having been there, seen it, participated in the solution, whether it's a phone, 1,000 phones, 50 terabytes, Lee, it's the right people doing the right work. That is the biggest cure to any of the challenge around digital data because our problem is backlog. I can teach you to, to deal with all the data and all the devices. I can't stop the volume of it coming, right? That's the problem. And once you start, I mean, you build yourself a lab or somebody builds a lab or somebody gets a new tool and they find out, oh, Lee can do this. Look out. I mean, lock your door because if you build it, they will come type analogy. And very quickly, when you don't have the right people doing the right work, everything goes to pot. And what I mean by that is if I'm the lab person and you're the detective or the investigator or the analyst, call it what you will, and you bring a bunch of data to me that you collect, you drop it on my desk and say, hey, find me the bad, good, whatever, find me what I'm after, and you run away, and I just enable that problem and do it, that's bad because very quickly I'm doing all your work too.
Yeah.
And who knows more about the data and the investigation between the two of us? Me, the person who's going to try to digitize it for you, or you, who's doing the investigation possibly or the analysis. So I got to get it back to you.
Mhm.
Collaboration
So it's
is the
yeah, I think
work.
it's different different to if we want to talk about triage now, as in we used to call it, remember, but that was really computers with targeted collection, right? So if you have targeted
Mm.
collection, you're pretty much just going in and grabbing that information. Whereas now it's more of targeted. In my opinion, it's more of a targeted analysis. So let me ask you this: do you think that this can lead to more subjective opinions based upon the data that they're going to now go in and report on?
Well, listen, the argument's always there. Am I going to miss a victim or a crime by not doing every piece of data? Right? Hey, listen, in our world, we meet the statute, boom, next piece of data to go through because we got what we needed. That conversation will probably never end. So the subjectivity around it, is very um, related to a jurisdiction or a court or a job, a need. Who's your ultimate customer and what are they after? Right? What's your ultimate need with this data? That is a very subjective conversation that I watch go all over the place. People come to blows about, well, here's how we do it. Hey, that's great. And, from an instructor standpoint, I'm going to show everybody how to do everything. What you do with it after I leave you, you know, let me know how I can help.
Yeah.
But I got to go back to, you say triage, and I say the first part of triage, maybe targeted collection for sure. Because look, you and I've had this conversation this year as well. And as a forensic guy in the beginning, I have no problem letting that go now. Gone are the days of very quickly gone were the days of pull the plug in the machine. Wow, okay, there's a lot more to consider. What about that network connection that's encrypted, or what about that stuff in memory I want to get before I just pull the plug before evidence eliminator killed everything, or don't who was at the keyboard at the time of the crime, things like that. Today, it's look, am I going to gather up all of that? Probably not. If I can gather up what I need from that hard drive versus all 50 terabytes of it or whatever the size happens to be, backlog's bad enough. Like I told you, I can't stop the volume. In the triage world, I may be able to impact the volume by targeting what I want. I would advocate that all day long. I don't have a lot of people don't have time, storage space, money to keep up with that. I would advocate getting what you want and getting it back in the right hands. It's now we can double or triple edge sword to attack that problem. But those are real world concerns every time. Gosh, every time we turn around. So I just got the whole, hey, come upgrade your phone, and there's the minimum option was the 256 gig one, followed by 512 and a terabyte.
Right.
I'm like, wow, a little more money, but I thought, wow, and how quickly it took me to fill up this phone with junk, and how quickly I'd probably fill up that terabyte.
Right.
And that's one phone, one person on the planet. Not to mention the people with three or four and a computer, and it's a deluge of data for sure. So we got a target collection. We got to get the right work in the right people's hands just to keep up with the Joneses. Not necessarily be in front of the wave, but ride the wave rather than trying to catch up from behind it.
Well, I guess so. this kind of dovetails into that whole conversation that I'm having to get to this point of obviously as part of training, as part of the curriculum that you deliver and your people deliver to the groups in your courses is you need to be a good human, and this is why, right? Is how do you go in and really kind of attack that? Because I truly believe, obviously, I mean, you can take anything, and it doesn't. Everybody has an opinion, right? And how they see the world or how they see different things, they see it differently, right? But data, it always tells the truth. But you can go in and go in and maybe make that truth a little bit different, right? But it always goes back to the person, I think. What's your opinion?
Well, it's probably a little bit of person, a little bit of technology. They say this kind of work is art and science together. It's funny, those of you on this conversation or on this listening to us that know Amanda Mahan, our director in the training group, we were just having a conversation this week about the combination of people and technology. How does the person help the technology help the person work together as a better team? And what I mean by that is if I'm trying to find your secure boot password in this phone, I need to, just because of all the encryption problems in the world, I need to get good intelligence about you as a target. How do I work with my tool to provide it the best possible shot at getting that password? You know, I got to work the human side of it, get that intelligence. I got to feed it to the technology so it can make the guesses with that intelligence to find that password. And there's art and science to all of that. The science of interrogating data and intelligence out there to build a profile and then give it to technology that knows what it's doing with that data to give us the best shot of breaking open your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I always look at it like that. I mean, it's incumbent upon the person for sure, but the person doesn't do much without the technology today,
Right.
just because of the sizes and everything that we have to go up against and the issues. The one I just mentioned being an encryption one. We need technology help at that point. And just because things are so big, the investigator needs technology help.
Right.
So I think, it's funny, you were talking about the subjectivity of the thought process on when you get all the data or you don't and everything. Yeah, you got to be a good person. You got to be a good person with your technology, and you got to kind of wrap all those things together, back to what are you trying to get out of the data in front of you. And that's a big one. I think that's probably a big part of education, Lee, is, when all this lands in a pile in front of you, what do you need from it? Do you really got to find the needle, or can you just find the brick in there? It's a lot easier to find if that can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have to not cut bait, but work more efficiently with your tool and with your end goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And with the foundation, I go building up the foundation of as those people that are getting into it or say learning a tool. How foundational is it, I guess, for to understand? We used to just do all, hey, disk. The big thing is wear leveling. Everyone got into all of that stuff and everything,
Mm-hmm.
all that type of data. Has that gone away?
No, look, I'll tell you my thoughts on that, and they're not. They haven't been detrimental yet to our positioning. And I've had this conversation a lot with my crew, and it's one of, listen, am I happy? Do I want you to know the Android operating system and how it structures its files and folders and locations? Of course I do. Am I going to spend a lot of time teaching you that here? No, not in this class. There's 50 ways to get that education out there. There are not 50 ways to get good education on our technology. That's my job. Oh, well, your certification should include this, 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 and this. Not really. It should include how to use the tool because that's what we do here. And my analogy has always been, look, hey, when you think you know how to use our tool, I don't care whose version of it you use. I don't care where you get it. Come to us, and we will qualify that for you, kind of like the driver's bureau or the DMV. Bring somebody's car, show me you know how to drive, and I'll give you a license. I think, and look, all kinds of new things come out. Oh, wow, check readings here. Let's go learn that inside and out and figure out what we can do with iDevices that are susceptible to that. For sure, that happens. But in our particular model, my particular thought process as a vendor technology educator is there's a lot of that out there, but that's not our game. We have you for a limited time and a very specific need and very qualified goals to getting stuck in your head. So that's out there for sure, those kind of concepts. But fundamentally, sure, not here though.
Right. Right.
That may
Yeah.
sound
Yeah.
that probably sounds a little crude, but look, I'm here to show you this. You can get that anywhere. I'm here to show you this stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's opportunities, obviously, for some of that lower level type of education, and obviously, that might be something too. I know a lot of people. I know Brett Shavers. He's watching this dfir training that has a lot of repositories and trying to get some of these things out there, right? So making sure that they have access to that. So before we go though, I want you to go and tell me. So what do you have going on? Give a blurb of some cool ass stuff.
What do I have going on? Well, so in a training capacity, because I could tell
Yeah.
you all kinds of key things going on.
Yeah, no, no, we can go. Hey, yeah, first before we get into that, tell me, yeah, what cool life hobbies are you doing right now?
No, I got nothing. My kid got braces. It's 60 degrees out, so it's soccer time again. There's got a game tomorrow, so
Nice.
that all drives everything I do at work anyway. So, no, it's interesting. Like I said, I'm really excited right this minute because we have another fun extraction class coming up where people all over the world are going to participate in it. But we just had a fun drone class. We've got great advanced training out for detective right now, and we've got some new guys on board who are bringing all kinds of crazy ideas to the table. And we're able to refresh a lot of our content right now. That as we talk about the tool coming out all the time, we're super excited to finally get some of our infamous knowledge nuggets that are version 12 looking knowledge nuggets up to version 14 something knowledge nuggets, and reinvigorate our learning management system with content for people. So what our biggest super duper thing right now is refreshing our world for the up and coming conference season. As we're doing a lot of that planning right now to get out to like NCCCs and Technos and IASIS and things that are rolling right around the corner. So I'm just happy to get out of winter, from a work perspective, from a
I'm
home.
not, man. I mean, the ski season. I mean, I did a lot, but it wasn't the best. So
Yeah, my grass is coming up again, and if you know me, I like to be in the
you got to
grass.
get out there. Yeah, get your grass going. Hey, so yeah, so you did mention you shortly a little bit about kind of extraction in a box, that XIB stuff. It's a
Mhm.
novel concept. So I mean, it's
It's
very
awesome.
unique. So kind of give a little bit of some information on that.
Yeah, so I wish I had a box here in front of me. They're all in the mail. Um, so we packed this box full of, I think there's 7 phones in it now, and every kind of adapter, cable, tweezers, because we actually test point some phones in there. I mean, this is you, and it's like a fantastic YouTube unboxing, like what we do in the introduction module to classes. All right, everybody get their box. Let's go get in there and see what's in there. And there's a fun inventory, but the whole design of this, and this is one of our folks who's no longer in the game had this idea. We should just send these out to people, and that just launched the idea of throwing a bunch of stuff in the box and going, "What about this?" And it's evolved a lot over time to what's in there now, but it is the whole concept of look, you learn by doing. And while all of our classes are fantastic in a row capacity, this one was one where we kind of want you to be able to sit at a table with some phones. If you're going to learn extraction, come on. And then when the COVID world came around, that kind of went by the wayside. And somebody did a survey. I can't remember our marketing groups did a survey. The question was, what training you want to see the most? And the answer was extraction. I'm like, come on,
Right.
people, right now. Well,
Right.
let's adapt to that. And
Right.
we just put everything in a box and send it. And it does have a return label. You got to send it back, and then you always reset it up for the next time. But it's got everything from SIM card adapters to phones that I've already done the work and heat gunned the back of them off. We don't torture everybody that bad, but at the end of the day, I want you to have more tools in your toolbox to get phone data or get all kinds of device data, frankly. And anytime I can let you do it yourself without having to send it away, maybe I'm all about that. So if you got the tool, this goes back to I had no idea I could do that. And our extractor is very aggressive these days. I love every build that comes out. Like, ooh, what's in there now? And that usually evolves our box somehow. But it's a box that shows up in the mail with lots of phones, cables, adapters, SIM cards. Uh, Gosh, there's SD cards in there. There's things to keep in there. There's some swag in there for you. There's a PPE kit in there, and there's all kinds of stuff in there. and it's something we've been super successful with. People have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. No, fantastic. I do appreciate the time that you spent, especially on a Friday, right? So that's good. But hey, we always work out on the weekends too. But now you have
Sure.
sauna, so that'll be good. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. I do appreciate it. We will, oh, well, I'm sure we'll do it again, right?
I mean, you get me every week, so you can always.
Exactly. Anytime. I'll just throw you in
But
here.
okay, so it was May 2020, and this is what are we at?
We're in
Almost April,
March.
March.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's not wait so
Yeah,
long.
exactly. Awesome. All right, buddy. Great talking with you.
Okay, Lee. Hey, man, have a good
All
weekend.
right. You too.
Appreciate it.
All right. Okay, again, the Forensic Happy Hour bringing on Keith Lockhart. If you see that, I'd follow him on Twitter, the OFD Jedi, which I did put Yoda up on the last tweet there, so it kind of fitting. But anyway, I appreciate everyone. Have a great weekend. We will be back again next week, and everyone be safe. Thanks. Bye. Yeah, keep on learning, as Keith says.